back. Welcome back, folks. I have... We'll get back to it. Apologies for the fake. Not blood, of course. Yeah, of course it did not have the blood. Important. Okay. Back into here. Forgot to put back on my jacket. Apologies. Not full. Not in my attire. Creaky chair and everything. Okay. You have these past few nights in a windowless room. As you pry... Oh, well. Once more, darkness falls upon the city. You wake up same as you have these past few nights in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight. And it hits you. The hunger. For a moment, you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kickstarting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the door behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. Hey, what else are you going to do? Call Jess? Right. What would you tell her? If she even picked up at all, she'd probably use the opportunity to stick some more needles in you. Or worse, persuade you to come back. Go back to work? Yeah, who are you kidding? HR probably found a replacement the day after you went missing. Nobody there cares if you get kidnapped or turned into a creature of the night. These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk through the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected. All these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in this strange new existence one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard, and you're let into the elevator. Apparently, Miss Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait, patiently. As the footsteps of the other side grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless, like a marble statue. Good evening, Sophie. She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out of some meditative state and look at you with strange, bleary eyes. Yes, and good evening, Merrick. I was wondering, when you look out at this city, when you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. Lights and rain, relentless honking below, music blasting from a nearby window, echoing off of buildings. Someone should record an hour of this and throw it up on YouTube as an ambient piece. Other than that, though, it's business as usual. The sights, the sounds, the smells. You know them all too well. Sophie watches you. You can tell she's disappointed, somehow. But she covers it up with a courteous smile. Well, not everyone can appreciate the intricacies that the world offers. In fact, among kindred, my clan is somewhat notorious for finding innate meanings even in the mundane. You see, the blood that flows within me is the clan of Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred, though that number has been contested in the past. These nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. Clans have gone by many epithets over the years. The name used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In times, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either when most cannot. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my own clan as well, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir. It breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it all. Nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru, known for their pride and an ancient proclivity to rule over others. The prince represents that clan and is quite common in our society around the globe. Where the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Brujah like to see themselves as permanent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. We won't discuss the rebel much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with the Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. Do you know what my clan is? No. I can only guess it based on certain aspects of your behaviors and tastes. You will need to come to your own conclusion and seek validation from your clanmates, if you require such a thing. As you will no doubt learn, some kindred fit these stereotypes more than others. The blood is hard to deny, though there are certainly those who will try. But there is perhaps a subject for another time. I invited you here for a reason. There is something I wanted to speak to you about. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organize into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves, or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you may need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures. We are drawn to each other nonetheless. Any suggestions on where I should start looking? I was just about to get to that. She puts on a mysterious smile. I spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide. Lenses through which to view our kind. They are members of the Camarilla, of course, more or less. Alright then, let's hear it. Who's on the list? Eager to learn about them, I see. Good. I'm glad. So, let's start with the Tremere. They're a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. You look at Sophie with a hint of disbelief. Blood sorcerers? Pretty sure Mark from UA used to brag about having a level 70 blood sorcerer. Somehow, you don't think he meant magic vampires. Sophie snickers. Oh, child. Don't be caught wearing that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are quite adept at using vitae, their own as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I have in mind for you to meet needs some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York, Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. So, by getting to know this Agathon, I can get closer to someone higher up the ladder. Yes, though not immediately, I would imagine. Aisling finds herself in somewhat a precarious position, both in the city and her clan. Every move she makes is heavily scrutinized, thus she has learned to tread lightly. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere here have one of their shops there. Gregory will give you the details. Now, this next recommendation comes with a bit of a caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there's one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeve. The Nosferatu. Man, what's with the goofy names? Guess they're really big on Blue Oyster Cult. No wonder they might have their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did she just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly color. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he is not Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Red Hook, right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me. The one with the awful furniture. You mentioned this D'Angelo has some useful connections? I was just getting to that. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadir. Digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work that Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now. Something to do with kind murderers, I think. After your initial brush with our dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. He takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic? As if the blood mage and the vampire detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan, in touch with their beasts in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they haven't been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades. But the one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamika. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as Camarilla Domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognized. Tamika and a number of her siblings reside in the domain that were awarded. They were awarded back after the battle, Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. I got the impression contacting vampires who aren't Camarilla was frowned upon. But you're saying Gangrel aren't a part of this sect anymore? How does that work? It's not as clear cut. The Gangrel as a whole have sworn off the Camarilla, but individual kindred of the clan can still hold our ideals. Jezebel was one of them, before she became jaded. Besides, her domain in Prospect Park has been upheld by Prince Panhard for all these years, has it not? We consider the members of the sect, and they have, for the most part, kept to themselves. Perhaps it will take a young kindred such as yourself to make them realize where their loyalties lie. So, you see, seeking out Tamika could prove quite educational, if nothing else. And who knows, perhaps you will find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of a change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though this one I don't make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries we considered them mad, insane, unhinged, but those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It is no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable. That perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves, and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope, specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can be currently found in an internet cafe, I believe is called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. Where did you learn about her exactly? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented, tapped into the current fads amongst kind. Not something I am personally interested in, as I'm sure you know by now. I take his word for it, at any rate. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight tomorrow to arrange some cordial visits on your own. I will send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me. You will need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points to one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous compact car, a decent-looking, if not luxurious ride. Stay safe, Merrick. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you find yourself with more freedom than you've had in the past few nights. A blessing? Or a burden? Time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move. A recent string of violent killings has the Red Hook district of Brooklyn on edge. Sophie mentioned that Kadir al-Azmai has a secret associate investigating murders, a Nosferatu neonate by the name of D'Angelo. If you help him out, he might be persuaded to form a lasting partnership. As you make your way down Clinton Street, The incessant hum of traffic gives way to the ominous silence of the waterfront. You stop to take in the familiar bouquet of the Hudson, made all the more potent by your recently sharpened senses. Across the basin, the Red Hook grain terminal rears its rusty frame. Once a bustling industrial area, now a sleeping giant splayed out on the riverbank, forgotten, abandoned. Conveniently so, even for one of the hidden. Keeping to the shadows, you sneak closer to the dilapidated complex, making your way past hole-ridden silos and wobbly chain-link fences. By the time you reach the entrance to the main building, you can almost feel the rust particles making themselves cozy at the back of your throat. Not getting your hopes up, you give the door a slight nudge. To your surprise, it goes almost instantly. Looks like someone's been using it recently. Once inside, you find yourself in a large, empty hall. Looking around, you can almost picture it back in its heyday, stacked to the rafters with heavy machinery. You notice a set of stairs leading up to a mezzanine, most likely an office space, and then you see it, a faint light coming from one of the upper rooms. Looks like you're in luck. Quietly, with bated breath, you climb the steps and approach the dimly lit room. The door creaks open, revealing what looks like an old-timey detective's office, complete with crooked blinds, an overflowing ashtray, and papers scattered across a wooden desk. Suddenly it hits you, that nagging feeling. It's all too convenient, too inviting. Before you can react, its trap is already sprung. A plume of cigar smoke wafts over your shoulder. The barrel of a gun rubs against your spine. A raspy voice whispers in your ear. Let me guess. Took a wrong turn at the third silo. Driven by a strange hunch, you open your mouth. You hear yourself talking, but the words are not yours. They seem to be coming from the deepest recesses of your memory, a movie you saw as a child. You don't know why, but it seems oddly appropriate. I know what you're thinking. This punk ain't got nothing on me. He's sitting pretty on a loaded Colt detective special. 5 in the cylinder, 1 in the chamber, and I only need the 1. As corny as it all sounds, the stranger seems oddly receptive to your tough guy monologue, so you decide to bump it up a notch. Focusing your will, you boost your aura, filling the room with your presence. Your voice becomes smooth, oozing with charisma, a regular Sam Spade. You yourself can't help but feel a sense of awe. Hopefully, the stranger feels it too. But then, there's that nagging feeling. What if there's more to this guy than he's letting on? What if he's got me right where he wants me? Maybe I should hear what he has to say. Is that right? Yeah. So how about we drop the tough guy act and talk like adults? You can always shoot me once we're done. For a few tense seconds, the room grows quiet. So quiet, in fact, you could swear you could actually hear the smoke swirling in the air. Finally, the stranger speaks again. You got a point there, kid. In a strange interplay of light and shadow, the stranger reappears behind his desk. Seeing him in his full, for lack of a better word, glory, you can't help but smirk. This is the dreaded Nosferatu? The way Sophie described them. You were expecting some grotesque monstrosity, but this guy? The clothes, the swagger, the hard-boiled detective routine. It all comes off as a bad joke. Still, when it comes to appearances, his lineage is undeniable. From 30 feet away, he could probably pass for a bum with a nasty skin condition. From 5 feet away, he looks like something made to be seen from 30 feet away. He leans back in his chair, casually pointing his gun at you. So, What brings you to my humble office? I'm here about the Red Hook murders. Yeah, that nasty business. What's it got to do with me? A lot, apparently. At least Kadir seems to think so. His expression sours. Not a name you want to casually toss around, kid. But hey, I get it. You're not some random schmuck who wandered in here off the street, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Name's D'Angelo. Gin to my friends. But you can call me D'Angelo. Who I work for is less important. What I'm working on, however. I want to help you catch the killer. His moldy lips twist into a smile. I want that hat so much. Do you now? D'Angelo lowers his shades. For a few seconds, he sits motionless with his eyes fixed on yours. Suddenly, he raises his gun, almost making you flinch. Almost. Then he twirls it into his shoulder holster in a flashy display. It definitely looks like it was practiced. A lot. In front of a mirror. You see the Nosferatu's lips move, but the quiet mumbling clearly isn't meant for your ears. Listening in, you're able to catch snippets of his monologue. Sure, they seem to care. What's the end game? What's the angle? Everybody's got one, even if they pretend like they don't. Especially then. What the hell? Maybe this town finally got to me. He pauses, taking a fresh cigar between his crooked teeth. Maybe a good leap of faith is just what the doctor ordered. As he reaches into his pocket, you flash a lit lighter before his eyes. Maybe you could use a healthy dose of unhealthy. For a split second, he gives you a puzzled look. Then he leans over to your lighter, puffs on the cig as it catches fire. A wry smile comes back to his lips. I like you, kid. You might look like a used car salesman, but there's just something about you. Tell you what, I was just about to head back to the crime scene, take a look around, refresh my notes. You can tag along if you want to. I could use an assistant. Someone to take notes and make wild assumptions for me to shoot down. Who knows? If you're any good, I might consider making this a long-term arrangement. What are we waiting for? Just one more thing. You still got me at a disadvantage here. Seems like you've done some digging on me, but with you, I barely scratched the surface. You catch my drift. So answer me this. Who was it that sent you into my neck of the woods? Or, in layman's terms, who do you work for? I'd rather keep that to myself, at least for the time being. To your surprise, a smile wriggles its way across D'Angelo's lips. He doesn't seem at all that bothered by your reticence. Fair enough, kid. Hey, at least you're upfront about it. But just so you know, if you're gonna play the game sooner or later, you're gonna have to show your cards. One blink is enough for you to miss D'Angelo vanishing from his chair. Just when you're about to look around, he reappears next to you, up close. The smile is even more unnerving. Alright, moonlight's burning, let's get cracking. With a certain fascination, you watch D'Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Oddly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for about a mumbling and narration. He is most certainly a sight to behold. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There is definitely a method to his madness. Eventually, your leprous guide takes a sudden turn off of Van Bruten Street and into a particularly dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place.
Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes. This is where they found him, drained dry. Not a drop of blood in him. Before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there were any bite marks. So, what can you tell me?
You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline of the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera, and you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast, or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It reads, "The Blood Speaks," crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo. The Nosferatu gives you an expecting look.
Did you say the victim was drained dry? 'Cause I don't see a trace of blood anywhere. Good eye, kid. It's the details that count. And given that the murder was committed right here and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that... Killer. Kindred. Bingo. Only a kindred could drain a human this quickly, this quietly. But not just any kindred. Take a look at that graffiti. What do you think it means?
Nothing. It's meant to throw us off.
Nah. I can see why you'd think that.
But look at how crooked the letters are.
Barely legible.
You can't fake something like that. Someone was very nervous, very scared.
Definitely meant something to them. Tell me, if you were to guess, which clan would you say our killer belongs to?
It's possible.
Wait. Aren't the Tremere known as blood sorcerers? This was probably some fucked up ritual of theirs. Warlocks do tend to get creepy at times, but they're not exactly the Manson family. Just not their style. I might be jumping to conclusions, but my money's on the Thin Bloods.
He pauses, spits out the mangled remains of a cigar.
Shit. Guess we're gonna have to pay Lawson a visit. You don't sound too happy about it. It's complicated. Lawson's got a neat setup for a thin blood anyway. Lives with his family. A mortal family, mind you. Even though he's a primogen, he managed to shield them from kindred politics. And that takes some doing. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'd be doing him a favor. If it turns out one of his is violating the Masquerade, it would put him in a hell of an awkward position. And I mean shitting upside down awkward. It's the kind of weakness that the other primogen would love to exploit. His position in the council is bad as it is.
He pauses for a moment, mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar. He takes a puff and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile.
All right, kid. Let's get this over with.
Compared to the industrial ugliness of Red Hook, Sterling Place is quite a change of scenery. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for things to come.
This is the place.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. With that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking two-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of an upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially if the head of the family happens to be a vampire.
Okay, kid. We gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet gloves, soft cushions. You ring my lord gentle. We need to get Lawson out of here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like a speakeasy on raid night. Trust me, I know. Let's get to it. Right you are. Tell you what, how about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you handle it.
You take a step back and look around the area. The lit-up windows seems like a safe bet. Now, it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention. He and no one else's. No one else. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you're suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog's barking. It doesn't take you long to figure out where it's coming from, and as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. You kneel down and pick up a rock from the lawn. One small enough not to break glass, but big enough to get someone's attention. Deftly, you chuck the rock at the window. It bounces off the glass with a quiet but audible thunk. Moments pass in silence, making you think that no one got your message. As you start to look for another rock, you hear the window slide open. A very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck appears at the window. As soon as he notices you, his expression sours, just like he smelled something rotten. He addresses your Nosferatu partner in what could only be described as a very loud and very angry whisper.
Get the fuck off my lawn, D'Angelo. You know goddamn better than to show your ugly mug around here.
You glance over to D'Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. You decide to sit this one out. D'Angelo seems to know the guy well. He should know which strings to pull.
Hey, Lawson. Long time no see. Yeah. Sorry to bother you. My new assistant can get a little too enthusiastic. What? For fuck's sake, D'Angelo, are you still going with this ludicrous roleplay?
D'Angelo lowers his voice, ever so slightly. It's subtle, but telling. Larson's words clearly got to him.
Listen, man. You know me well enough. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important.
Larson closes his eyes and takes a long, deep breath. When he speaks again, his voice is calmer, if not much friendlier.
Say where you are.
You wait out in the lawn, listening to Larson quietly making his way downstairs. Before long, he appears on the porch, locking the front door behind him. He motions at you, following him off the side of the house. There, he turns towards you. What do you want?
It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible.
Bullshit. A Dustborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out here. Could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade.
Desperation. The killer's been leaving messages, whoever they are. They think they know something they can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way this puzzle fits together.
Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching, trying to find scapegoat. Get in your boss's good graces. Word gets around, D'Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for?
Help us clear your people's name. What do you have got to lose? Everything. Been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me. What if it turns out one of yours did it, and you sat on your hands to protect them? You think the council won't jump on that?
He looks off in the darkness, pondering his options. He lets out a heavy sigh.
Look, I'll ask around, consult my sources. If it turns out one of my own is responsible, then they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is. Deal. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my family.
And with that, Larson retreats to the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, the Nosferatu stops and turns toward you.
Hell of a night. I don't know about you, kid, but I sure could use a drink. Something warm in a tall, sweaty glass. But first, let me tally your score. Let me see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking sheep. Bullets, not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own, but hey, we aren't all professionals. Finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Discretion is what separates a private dick from just any old dick. All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it get to your head. I'll be in touch. Let you know if I hear from Lawson. Be ready to meet me at the office.
He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back towards you.
And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one.
You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. The letter's been slipped under the door in a cream-colored old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned. Rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is short and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There is no other information. Looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. It's been a while since you heard from D'Angelo. Maybe he's busy, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Or maybe he's pissing off the wrong people, and now rotting in a ditch somewhere. Either way, now's a good time as any to check up on him. You make your way through the now familiar rusty maze of the grain terminal and up the stairs to D'Angelo's office. This time, however, you find apologies for the sneeze. I really have to make a sneeze counter. You make your way through the now familiar rusty maze of the grain terminal and up the stairs to D'Angelo's office. This time, however, you find the room firmly locked. There's a note pinned to the door. You rip it off and scan the crooked lettering. There's been another one at the scene now. Come to the to Bedstuy, corner of Pulaski and Garvey, ASAP. Looks like D'Angelo could use your help. Better get going. As you approach the address D'Angelo gave you, a squad car passes you by, sirens blaring. Following it, you make a turn from Delcab Avenue on Pulaski Street. Sure enough, the street is awash with red light, and the 4 or so police cars parked in the nearest corner next to an ambulance confirm that you're in the right place. You move closer to what appears to be a New York's finest convention, looking around in the hopes of spotting a familiar, if not altogether pleasant face. No such luck. True to his Nosferatu lineage, D'Angelo is nowhere to be seen. You stop on the sidewalk across the street, trying not to draw attention to yourself. All of a sudden, one of the cops standing by the entrance to the building looks straight at you. He does a double take, and you instinctively look away. Bad move, you think to yourself, as you notice him making his way toward you. Slowly but surely, you turn away and start walking in the opposite direction. The cop yells after you, trying to get your attention. You ignore him and pick up the pace. He does not let up. Suddenly, as you're passing a dark alleyway, someone grabs you by the arm and pulls you into the shadows. If the smell of cigars and cheap cologne doesn't give him away, the gravelly voice sure does. Don't move a muscle. Your back pressed against the brick wall, you remain perfectly still, waiting for the cop to walk past the alley. Good thing I was around, huh? Come on, I'm parked nearby. Before you know it, you're sitting in the passenger seat of a busted old sedan parked half a block away, giving you a nice view of the police gathering. Hey, how about you do your shadowy skulky thing? Maybe you can find some way to let me in from the inside. Shadowy skulky thing? Jesus, kid. Child is freezing aside is a good approach as any, I guess. Without another word, he gets out of the car and heads for a nearby back alley. You watch in silence as he disappears into the shadows. A minute passes. Then another. And another. You begin to worry. What if there were more cops inside? What if your moldy partner has gotten himself into trouble? Suddenly, a shadowy silhouette appears in one of the windows on the second floor. Looks like you make it after all. At least, you hope it's him. The shadow waves at you and points to the corner of the building, opposite to the 2 cops. You get out of the car and quietly make your way toward the alley. Sure enough, you find that a fire escape ladder has been conveniently dropped for you. Good work, D, you mumble to yourself as you can climb the second floor. Finding the crime scene proves easily enough. You just follow the yellow police tape, and before you know it, you're standing in the middle of what used to be someone's living room. The place has been completely trashed. Knocked over furniture, shattered glass, the works. Looking around, you notice a sign scribbled on a nearby wall. It reads, "His gift, our fate." You're no expert in typography, but the crooked letters look similar to the ones you saw back in Red Hook. Sure enough, there's very little in terms of blood, save for the occasional stain that's bound to end up in the carpet once you toss someone through a glass coffee table. D'Angelo leans against the doorway. He seems lost in his thoughts, sucking on his cigar compulsively and mumbling to himself. You lean over a bit, trying not to make it obvious that you're listening in. You manage to catch the last few lines of his monologue. The night's been kind to them so far. The questions kept piling on, and now they've finally found themselves amidst the wreckage of another life. It was up to them to sift through the debris and come up with a neat little pile of answers. Suddenly he tenses up, as if sensing your eyes upon him. Feel free to chip in, kid. Anything catch your eye? Someone sure did a number on this place. They did. Any more to that thought? Clear signs of a struggle. Victim tried to defend themselves. Well, duh. More importantly, the poor bastard was fully aware of his attacker. Not something fully fledged vampire would allow. God damn it. Hate where this is going. Why? Thin blood angle seemed to check out. It looks like you're right. Yeah, well, this time I'd rather be wrong, alright? Anyway, looks like we're not getting any more out of this place. No way around it. We gotta see the body. For a penny, for a pound, might as well be prudent. My thoughts exactly. The Dustborn have it as bad as it is. If I'm gonna accuse one of them of breaching the Masquerade, I might want solid evidence, and I mean rock fucking solid. Luckily for us, I might know someone who could get us an audience with our dearly departed. To your surprise, he pulls out a cell phone, a busted old clamshell, flips it open and spends a good minute browsing through the contacts, muttering to himself. Finally, he makes a call. Hey. You know who this is? Yeah, that favor you owe me? Time to deliver. Listen. I know you got a fresh one. The murder in Bed-Stuy. I need to take a look. Yes, now. Yeah, you'd better. With that, he hangs up and gives you his trademark wry smile. So, are we good? Yeah, we're good. Next stop, Kings County. Kings County, the bleeding heart of Brooklyn, is beating as hard as ever. Ambulance after ambulance bringing its sick and wounded New Yorkers to be pumped through the tight arteries of the healthcare system. It's a dangerous place for a kindred to show their face, incessantly crowded and full of people who specialize in noticing all sorts of physical afflictions, especially the sort that make up the very essence of vampire's essence. For instance, death. Thankfully, your business here tonight keeps you away from the hectic human hive of the ER. Instead, you follow D'Angelo to a relatively quiet part of the underground parking lot that's closest to your current point of interest, the Kings County morgue. Having found yourself a convenient and suitably unlit spot near the hospital wall, you wait patiently for D'Angelo's contact to appear. Every now and then, you glance over at the undead gumshoe, as if to make sure his moldy mug wasn't showing any signs of worry. It isn't, or at least he's very good at hiding it. Finally, after 30 minutes or so, a lone figure emerges from a side entrance. As the human-shaped shadow walks by, you're quick to recognize him as the EMT you saw back at the murder site. Clearly nervous, the 20-something-year-old redhead can't seem to help look back and make sure no one is following him. Finally, he stops and lights up a cigarette. Without even looking in your direction, takes a puff and exclaims something to no one in particular. From 112, 20 minutes. Angela speaks without looking at you. That's our cue. You follow the Fang detective through the same door the EMT walked out of. Luckily, this wing of the hospital seems unusually empty. Still, the confidence with which D'Angelo makes his way through the white and green corridor makes it clear he's been here before. Finally, he stops in front of one of the doors. Room 112. That's your stop. The room is small, with only one oversized freezer by the wall and a single slab mounted in its center. Sure enough, the body of a middle-aged man is splayed out on a steel surface. Even for a dead man, he seems unnaturally pale. Extreme blood loss will do that to you. Try as you might, you can't help but look at the man's face. His features twisted in abject horror. This was not a peaceful death. Looking closely, you notice 2 small puncture wounds on the victim's neck. If ever there was a clearer sign of a vampire attack, you've yet to see it. Looking over at D'Angelo, you notice his lips moving in his familiar fashion. He's narrating again, but he can utter an intelligible word. Before he can utter an intelligible word, you cut in with a remark. Jesus. Look at the look on his face. It's like nightmare fuel.
No kidding. Which means he was fully aware all the way through. He knew he was dying, which combined with the blood loss and the teeth marks on his neck confirms our hypothesis. We have a serial thin blood on our hands. Fuck.
As if on cue, the door swings open. A tired-looking man with a stethoscope around his neck walks in. With his eyes fixed on his clipboard, he doesn't appear to notice you. Yet. Letting your instincts take over, you pounce on the unsuspecting doctor, plunging your fangs into his aorta. Precious liquids taste sickeningly sweet, making you feel a bit lightheaded. It appears the good doctor has been getting high on his own supply. It takes you a moment to get your fill, but when you're finally done, you immediately feel D'Angelo's eyes upon you. You start coming up with the excuse, but he just smirks.
You're quick. I'll give you that. Beat me to it by a pube. Oh, come on. Let's get out of here. Time to pay our dear Primogen another visit.
Robert Larson's home looks about the same as last time. No added security, no angry dogs prowling the yard. It appears that the thin-blood Primogen would rather risk another visit from his old pal D'Angelo than to arouse suspicion from his family and neighbors. Which is good, considering that's what he's about to get. Sure enough, the light in Larson's study is on, and you even catch a glimpse of the man himself shuffling about the room. You look over to D'Angelo, wondering how you're going to get Larson's attention this time. Without a single word, D'Angelo walks over to a nearby street lamp and leans against it, making sure he's visible to any and all who happen to look at. Looks like time for subtlety is over. It only takes a couple minutes for Larson to take notice. You see him lean against the window and storm out of the room. In mere seconds, he's out in front and in D'Angelo's face.
Listen to me, you moldy fuck. I've had just about enough of your shit. You want to pester me? Fine, but leave my family out of it.
For a moment, D'Angelo just stands there, motionless, allowing Larson to get his frustrations out. Suddenly, he grabs the thin blood by the collar, lifts him off the ground, and smashes his back against the lamppost.
Are you finished? All right. Now you listen to me, and you listen good. You think I'm enjoying this? You think I like to be jerked around? You think I got nothing better to do than to hang around this little puppet theater you made for yourself? Now, either give me a lead I can follow, or I'll start remembering things you'd rather forget.
For the first time since you met him, Larson looks speechless. His eyes wide with fear. He can only mutter under his breath.
You wouldn't dare. Try me.
Cue awkward silence. You stand there, shifting your eyes from one vampire to the other. Guess it's time to either press the advantage or play the good cop. Come on, Larson. Just give us something. It's been a rough night.
See, Robert, my assistant here is tidy as shit too. So, what's it gonna be? If you want my help, put me the fuck down.
With his feet back on the ground, Larson straightens his collar in a faint attempt at preserving some shred of dignity. There's a place in Manhattan, Lower East Side, one of the few places in the city where my people can find shelter.
Yeah, I know it.
You go there right now, you might find what you're looking for. D'Angelo stares at him for a moment, just long enough to make it uncomfortable.
We'd better.
Finally, D'Angelo loosens his grip. You both watch Larson limp back to his house, looking back over his shoulder, like he's gonna tell the teacher on you. You look to your partner, meaning to ask what the whole thing you'd rather forgot deal was. As if sensing your curiosity, D'Angelo cuts in with a preemptive mutter.
Come on, we got what we came for.
As you reach the address Larson gave you, you find yourself standing in front of what looks like an old garage. On the outside, the place looks like as uninteresting as it gets. You'd think it abandoned, if not for the few barely working lights illuminating its shabby facade. Once you're inside, however, if ever there was a place worthy of being called a wretched hive of scum and villainy, this was probably it. The room is littered with drunks and crackheads, humans and thin blood alike, their minds lost in their cruel little worlds, their bodies splayed out across the floor. D'Angelo leans over and whispers in your ear,
I'll cover the back door, you stay near the front. Let's look around and see what we can find.
Before you can ask what exactly you're supposed to be looking for, D'Angelo disappears into the shadows. Doing your best to blend in with the crowd, which is fairly difficult considering your upright position, you slowly make your way across the large room. Not really knowing what you're looking for, you focus on the details. A knowing smirk, a hateful stare, anything that looks even the slightest bit suspicious. After a dozen or so empty stares, you're almost ready to give up when suddenly something catches your eye. A young, skinny woman hunched over in the corner of the room. She gives you a bewildered look, a 1,000-yard stare that tells you beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's her. As you walk towards her, D'Angelo emerges from the shadows right next to you.
Nice catch.
He kneels down beside her. You can tell he's trying to sound as comforting as possible, but with his gravelly timbre, it's not really working out.
Hey, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you. Just want to talk.
No. Don't talk too loud. She seems halfway out of it. It's like the lights are on, but whoever's inside is stumbling around for one hell of a bender.
All right, you like quiet. Got it. Can you tell me your name?
Santa. That's what he called me. Suddenly you hear the door swing open behind you. Even though the night is fairly warm, a cold chill runs down your spine. You look towards the entrance. There's a woman standing there, and something about her just screams kindred. Even though she seems comically overdressed for the situation, somehow you don't feel like cracking a smile. Whoever she is, you can tell she means business. She starts making her way to the back of the room, not making any effort to sidestep any of the junkies and drunks. They all know well enough to get out of her way. Acting out of bravery or sheer stupidity, you walk up to her. She looks at you as if you were something she just scraped off her shoe. You smile nervously without even knowing it. As soon as you open your mouth, her hand shoots out, grabbing you by the throat. The woman looks at you, tilting her head, as if examining a curious species of insect. Suddenly, her eyes shift as she notices something behind you. Her face turns from disgusted curiosity to sheer annoyance.
You. Hey, Val. That's my assistant you got there. Do you mind?
She rolls her eyes. You feel the grip of your neck loosen and you awkwardly fall to your feet. She makes her way towards D'Angelo, pushing you aside like a rag doll.
Where is she? You're gonna have to be a bit more specific, darling. Don't play coy, Jeannie. The manslayer, I know she's here. A blood hunt has begun. By order of the prince herself, the girl is to meet her final death. Hold your horses, honey. I'm conducting an investigation under the auspices of the sheriff. That counts for something, too. Look, sweetie, I'm not here for some clip measuring contest. You want to get this ugly? You want this to get ugly? Be my guest. Otherwise, I suggest you take a step aside and let me do my job. By all means.
He steps aside in a comically exaggerated fashion. You look at the corner where you last saw Sana, but find no trace of the girl.
Well, I could swear she was just here.
Valerie looked at D'Angelo. She smiles softly, but you can tell she's trying very hard not to rip his head off.
You'll regret this. Story of my life.
Without another word, she turns on her heel and storms out. D'Angelo waves his hand in your general direction.
Come on, kid. Let's get out of this shithole.
As you emerge from said shithole, you feel the cool night breeze caress your face. It's soothing and almost makes you forget how shitty the last few hours have been. Almost.
Okay, kid. I know you've got questions, but it's getting early and I don't feel like having a Q&A sessions right now. But now, get one question. Make it count.
Still hard to believe that girl is our killer. Do you know where she ran off to?
Not sure, but I might have some ideas. The important thing is, we know who we're looking for. Too bad Valerie knows it too. She's a scourge, kid. Part enforcer, part assassin. All around pain in the ass. We'll be seeing more of her. You can bet on that. Before you ask, yes, we've run into each other in the past. No, I don't feel like talking about it. Alright, kid. Didn't know about you, but I'm turning in. I'll figure some stuff out and keep looking for our girl. Feel free to swing by the office in a night or two.
And with that, he stumbles off into the distance, not even bothering to keep to the shadows. Can't say you blame him. It really has been a rough night. Sophie mentioned a gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika, who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Farrells aren't exactly a social bunch, even by kindred standards, but you can keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough. She might be persuaded to join you. You make your way through the Grand Army Plaza, passing the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Arch. You can't help but feel a tinge of nostalgia as you picture the place as you've seen it countless times, in broad daylight teeming with life. You quickly lead over it and pass through the northwest gate into Prospect Park. The park, in its usual maze of unkept foliage and dimly lit alleys, silence hangs in the air, as it would at this time of night, and there doesn't appear to be any sign of kindred presence. You start to suspect Langley's sources fed her a bunch of bullshit, but you're not willing to give up just yet. As you ponder your options, you hear footsteps coming from behind a line of trees, quick but evenly paced. most likely a late-night jogger. No vampire would talk kindly to your feeding in their domain, but then again, perhaps you could kill two birds with one stone. You lock onto the sound of footsteps. Predicting the runner's path, you move swiftly, but quietly, to intercept them. You hide behind a tree and wait for your prey to get closer. Mere seconds later, a young man in an off-brand tracksuit trots into view. You notice the buds in his ears, beat heavy music bleeding through. That should make things easier. Just as the man passes by, you emerge behind him and plant your hand firmly on his neck. He struggles at first, desperately trying to break free of your grasp. But as soon as your fangs pierce his skin, panic gives way to a peaceful submission. You feel elated as the warm liquid trickles down your throat. The fresh vitae washes over your senses, sending an orgasmic shiver along your spine. Somewhere in the deepest, darkest crevices of your mind, the beast stirs in its slumber. You stop feeding, just in time. Your hunger satiated, the beast fast asleep. You sit, the dazed victim, on a nearby bench. As the world comes back into focus, you suddenly realize that something is not right. In a split second, the air by the side of your head swirls like a vortex. Driven by sheer instinct, you lean back just as a five-finger shaped razor cuts through the darkness, missing your face by an inch. A clawed shadow jumps back a few paces, preparing to correct his mistake. You catch a glimpse of the assailant. Looks pretty animalistic, all right, but he's not the one you're looking for. For starters, it's a he. Just as he is about to lunge at you, a snarl resounds from the bushes nearby, stopping your foe in their tracks. Out of the shadow emerges a young woman, baring her teeth ever so slightly. She walks over calmly, her eyes fixed on your assailant. Her presence is enough to make him reconsider attacking you, but not to withdraw completely. He glances over to her, puffing up his chest.
Stay out of it, Tom. You smelled him first.
Tom, how about that? She raises an eyebrow, but remains silent. Her compatriot turns back towards you.
You should not have come here, pretty boy. I'm gonna fuck you up so bad you'll be wearing your tongue as a fertile necktie.
Tamika looks at you expectantly.
All right, boy. Let's see if your bite is as bad as your bark.
Clearly taken aback, he looks over to Tamika, as if he's gauging her reaction.
Oh, guess I know who the alpha is around here.
A barely visible smile creeps up on Tamika's lips. The man's eyes narrow. Although you can't really see it, you could bet the hair on the back of his neck just stood up.
Shut your fucking mouth, pretty boy. You should have run when you had the chance.
The fierce growl echoes across the alley, stopping the savage in his tracks. Tamika walks over to a comrade, her fangs glistening in the dim lamplight. She puts her hand on the side of his head, caressing his hair and tugging his ear as if she was scolding a puppy. She leans over and speaks in a voice that's firm, yet oddly affectionate.
It's okay, Raoul. I'll handle it from here.
Male Gangrel looks at her with a mix of timidity and resentment. Then he turns back towards you.
You want to waste time on this asshole, Tom? Be my guest.
Having said his piece, Raoul retreats into the shadows. Although, if you were to guess, he's likely to stay within earshot. With her companions gone, Tamika turns to you once more. What do you want? Straight to the point, huh? I like that. I don't care what you like. Now quit stalling. You have something to say. Say it. I come with an offer. I'm willing to offer you my services such as they are. All I would hope is for a return. In return is a fruitful and long-lasting relationship. So, you want to help me to help. You want to help me with something. Because you want to be my friend. That about right? Yeah, when you put it that way, it does sound corny, doesn't it? Uh-huh. She puts up a veneer of skepticism, but you can tell she's intrigued. Corny is not bad, though. I think I'm okay with corny. What I'm not okay with is putting my ass on the line for some and getting stabbed in the back for my trouble. So, why exactly should I trust anything you say? I don't expect you to. Not yet, anyway. Good, because my trust is earned, not given. Then let me earn it. A few nights of your time. That's all I ask. For a brief moment, she stands there, motionless, looking straight into your eyes, as if trying to size you up. Finally, she looks away. Looks like she's come to a decision. Just so that we're clear, I don't trust you. I have no reason to. Frankly, you sound more lost than I am. Still, you have that earnest look about you, naive almost. I can tell you belong. I can tell you believe what you're saying. So I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. I have some outstanding business to take care of. I'll let you know once that's done. Meet me here and we'll see what you're really made of. And with that, Tamika disappeared into the night. That went pretty well, all things considered. Not long after you wake up tonight, Gregory knocks on the door of your apartment. Hey, I came to pick you up. Slendy wants to see you. Any idea what she needs me for? I'm not in the position to ask. He smiles politely. Car's waiting, shall we? You wrestle with the same thoughts as a few nights ago. Maybe you should just leave, disappear, let Sophie find someone else to employ. But then you remember the anarch thug being cut down by Kadir, and how close you were to the same fate not even a week ago, and that it might still happen if you step out of line. You follow suit. As with your previous visit here, Sophie seems not entirely present when you enter. Her eyes are locked onto one of the paintings in the room. You're pretty sure it was here earlier, but she's behaving as if she's seen it for the first time in her life, entirely entranced. Gregory clears his throat. Sophie turns to the both of you, a bit of irritation in her countenance that soon gives way to a pleasant, warm smile. You're here. Excellent. Thank you, Gregory. Her driver leaves and she turns her attention to you. I hope you had a few nights and made some new acquaintances, but I have to say, I'm happy to see you, Merrick. Thank you for coming. The change in mood of the room is so sudden and startling, makes you consider the true power of vampiric charisma. Rationally, you know you're being manipulated, but you don't even care. Her eyes, her motions, her entire body language all feel 100% genuine and expressing legitimate interest in you and your well-being. I have a request for you this night. I need you to find somebody for me and make a delivery. She points to the statue at the side of the room. You notice a plain-looking flash drive lying on the edge where the inanimate archer's bow touches the pedestal. The man you'll be looking for calls himself Kaiser. He has eyes and ears all over New York, and it's rare for something to happen here without his knowledge. I'll need you to take the flash drive and bring it to him. In exchange, he will give you an address, which I need to know as soon as possible. You're about to ask what's on the drive, but Sophie proves to be one step ahead of you. Oh, don't worry about the contents. They are encrypted and precaution for the data fall and a precaution for if the data falls in the wrong hands. But it won't. Correct. She gives you a smile. Just a handful of nights ago would make you feel like melting. Oh, and Merrick, Kaiser is a Nosferatu, that twisted, deformed lineage of kindred. He is old, and his age has made him even more paranoid than others of his clan tend to be. He holds many havens and changes them often. From what I've gathered, he or one of his servants should be found at the park of Coney Island tonight. You'll have to identify them somehow. I'm told Kaiser has spent many of his nights these past few years being driven around the city in a black limo. Maybe keep an eye out for it. That smile again, but much shorter. Anything more you can tell me about Kaiser? He's been here a long time, about as long as I have. He got into a lot of trouble for exchanging information a while with both the Anarchs and Camarilla in the past, but ultimately got off scot-free. Kaiser's web of information proved to be strong enough to shield him from the consequences of playing both sides. Some say that's the best proof of his abilities. In any case, be careful when talking to him. He's very particular about everyone's etiquette except his own. Good night, and good luck. She flashes one last smile at you and turns back to the painting, clearly done with the conversation. You pocket the flash drive and head over towards Coney Island. It takes you the better part of an hour to reach the lights and sounds of the Coney Island amusement park from the city. The drive is almost pleasant this time of night. Thank God for Belt Parkway. There are plenty of people here tonight, but nobody who stands out of a traveling purveyor of secrets. Then again, if they did stand out, it would be kind of pointless, right? Nothing to do but figure out the right approach. Temporarily stumped, you feel frustration building inside. You come to recognize what this is. Hunger, the beast calling to indulge your vice and lash out. It has to be silenced. You take a short walk away from the lights into one of the less frequented, poorly lit areas, and see if any options reveal themselves. One does. An older bum has settled himself in a small niche between two buildings and has just begun loudly but incoherently praying. Hard to say who he's praying to, but he's entirely engrossed. Good for you. He barely sees you coming, and you bite down, trying to ignore the smell of unwashed body and soiled blanket underneath. The taste is... Hold up. That's familiar. Yeah. This guy's on a party pill. Or two. Or you stop drinking. You feel woozy, but happy. The world spins a bit, and starts spinning the other way. You get it under control, and you don't. You feel your thoughts scattering in all directions, every detail of your surrounding turning into a potential fascination, faraway lights and sounds composed into a beautiful symphony. You bask in the afterglow of a successful feeding, feeling like you're on top of the world, superhuman, master of the night, a god. A few tangents later, stray thoughts saying, "This isn't good," breaks through the layers of noise inside your head, and you realize you've been standing in place for 15 minutes. And staring at you intently is a man with a gun in his hand. Oh, there he is. Stay put. There's someone who'd like to have a word with you. I'm gonna wait for him.
Right here. You don't have to take this. You're a goddamn vampire now. This could be over in a blink of an eye. Vivid scenarios that would instill eternal respect for you in this asshole's heart play out before your eyes. Maybe you'll rip off a limb or two. Maybe you'll make him swallow his own gun bit by bit. Maybe you'll uppercut him with the ferocity of 1,000 tigers, putting him so high in the air he'll be able to get a bird's eye view of nighttime Brooklyn. Masquerade, fuck the masquerade. Equality through fear. Hey, dude. Hey! You snap back to the real world. You're not sure how much time went by, but the guy with the gun is still there. You hear the hum of a nearby car and see its headlights. The boss is here. Let's go. He motions towards the lights with his gun. You're coming to, finally in charge of your body. Or at least, you think so. The car's door is open, but nobody comes out. The stranger keeps motion into the car. You hope it's the limo you expect. For a moment, you're pretty sure that what you see inside the car is just the bum's drugged blood kicking in for an encore. Then, inside of the limo, the inside of a limo used to be a luxury lounge. The kind with a stripper pole and a bar full of alcohol, but it currently has none of that. Instead, there are monitors and consoles. There are dozens of displays, each one showing something different. Surveillance camera footage, stock market quotes, television news, emails, tweets, silent movies, lo-fi footage of a gore torture session. You wonder if the limo's owner can focus on anything while surrounded by all the visual noise, and then realize there's nobody there. Or is there? A man blinks into existence on a leather covered couch, attempting to maintain something that approximates a regal presence. You're 100% sure. It's Kaiser. Surrounded by dimly lit computer screens, his features are even more ghastly than you imagined. All sharp angles of twisted bone, mangled flesh, and crooked teeth. He bears them all in an awful parody of a smile. The door is closed behind you.
So, the waste of good blood outside tells me Sophie Langley sent you, huh? You're getting something from me.
You reluctantly pull the flash drive from your pocket and slowly pass it to Kaiser. He plugs it into a USB port on the arm of his chair and displays the data on one of the screens that happens to be turned away from you. It takes him about a minute to access the data.
Let me guess. This is from some Langley. She said she'd have something like this. You, her new flunky.
You have to bite your tongue to keep from arguing with the word he chose, but you nod.
Who do you people think I am? I saw this footage a week ago.
He removes the flash drive and throws it back at you in disgust.
Tell Sophie the deal's off. She wants her address. She can give me something else.
I'm sorry this proves disappointing to you, Mr. Kaiser. Can I do something to make it up to you? He seems genuinely impressed.
Now that's what I like to hear. Yes. In fact, I was just about to mention it. I have something in mind. We'll talk again soon. You do that for me. The address is yours. Now, would you be so kind as to get the fuck out of my car?
You're pretty sure you're done here. You get out, close the door behind you, and the car immediately starts back up. starts backing up. The opaque windows slide past you, and soon the limo is on its way. Kaiser's lackey is nowhere to be seen, so you make your way to your car and drive back, wondering what tomorrow brings. As you leave your haven, a homeless man bumps into you. You turn after him, but he blends into the crowd before you can even get a good look at his face. Instinctively, you check your pocket. A note, looking at minute bridge, come over. Knowing there are only so many places with a good enough view of the Manhattan Bridge, you decide to check the ones that are likely to be crowded at this time of night. It doesn't take long before you hit the jackpot, Jane's Carousel. As you're walking along the pier, you notice a lonely figure sitting over on the bench, steel flask in hand, his legs up on the railing. Soon enough, you hear a familiar voice.
Evening turned to night, and the final flickering rays of sunlight gave way to the kind of nocturnal shadows. So did the last of the jabbering tourists give way to a blessed silence. And yet, couldn't shake the feeling.
Pausing mid-sentence, he leans back over the bench, backrest, looks straight at you, upside down. His face looks even creepier than usual.
That I wasn't alone.
The flask, is that what I think it is?
Depends what you think. A little something from my private reserve. I call it the Drunken Sailor. That's probably where it came from.
He takes a sip and points the flask in your general direction.
Want some? Sure, why not?
You take the flask and take a swig. There's blood, all right, mixed with other frivolous substances, some of which you recognize, while others, you probably don't want to know.
That's the spirit. Now that you're getting sauced, there's something I've been needing to tell you. There's been another one. Killing, down by the docks.
Same MO? The blood and graffiti?
Yep, it was our gal, all right. Victim sucked dry, same as before.
Another sign on the wall, something about impending doom.
Oh Lord, he's coming. Particulars escape me. You know, that night I saw her. She looked so frail, so innocent. Deep inside, I was hoping she'd be spooked, get out of town. That maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But that's me, you know, hopelessly optimistic.
Any idea why she's doing it?
Doesn't really matter at this point. Whether she's Kane's chosen or just a poor girl gone nuts after a botched embrace. One thing is painfully clear.
It gives you a look full of worry and sadness.
She ain't gonna stop.
Takes a swig, as if to punctuate the sentence.
So, anyway, I set up a meeting. Neutral ground, public space, shouldn't get too ugly. Still, I was hoping you could tag along.
Is it Larson again?
Nah, let's leave the poor schmuck alone for now. It's a pretty clue he's just as clueless as we are.
He looks away and past the bench next to where he's sitting.
You might want to sit for this one.
Unless you want to introduce me to your parents, I can probably handle it.
Come on, who is it? Valerie.
Valerie? Isn't that murderous bitch Valerie? Likes to choke people out for the fuck of it Valerie? That Valerie?
You ever notice that if you repeat a word enough times, you just start sounding like animal noises? But yeah, that Valerie. I know you two didn't exactly hit it off,
But she's not as bad as you might think. I mean, in some respects, she's probably worse, but she can be reasoned with.
Once again, he goes for the flask, but he stops himself mid-motion.
Look, the way I see it, we ain't got a choice. As much as I want to help Sana, she clearly a few bats short of a belfry. More people are gonna die unless we do something about it. You really think we can trust someone like Valerie?
D'Angelo does almost a spit take.
Fuck no. But we can do business with her. Just worried that her asking price might be steep for my liking. But then again, you don't always get what you want, huh?
Noticeably proud of his words of wisdom, he tries to top him off with one last swig. A single drop falls between his crooked teeth. He looks at the empty flask with the utmost contempt.
Well, ain't that fucking poignant?
Muttering a curse under his breath, he makes a valiant effort to get up off the bench. As he staggers, struggling to remain upright, you offer your shoulder to lean on. He shoots you a smile that's as crooked as it is affectionate.
Hey, kid.
You meet his gaze, trying to look friendly rather than condescending.
You all right?
And with that heartfelt moment, you bid adieu to the sprawling vista and make your way towards the bridge. Next stop, Manhattan. Entering the park from Midtown Manhattan, you promptly take a spot by one of the alleys, not very deep into the park. Minutes pass. 5, 10, 15. You start to wonder if she's ever going to show up. Suddenly, you hear a familiar voice with an unfamiliar tone. She sounds almost nice.
Hello, Jeannie.
And there she is, walking along the side of the fountain. She looks less out of place here than back at the junkie-infested hovel, but only by a slight margin. Something tells you there are only so many places she would feel at home, and probably not ones you would want to find yourself in.
Val.
She glances over at you, barely noting your presence.
Sorry about last time. Nothing personal, you understand. When I get caught up in the moment, I get a bit tense. I can attest to that.
You two just get a room, because the sexual tension is just unbearable. D'Angelo gives you a pleading look. Clearly doesn't want you to dwell on the subject.
You hear that, Jeannie? Friend has us all figured out.
She takes a step towards you. The smell on her perfume is overpowering.
Or maybe it's just jealousy.
Although, I'd be careful if I were you. Last time we got close, I didn't exactly work out for you. Speaking of which, how's that neck doing? You give her a wry smile and a very clear view of your middle finger. She returns the smile and blows you a kiss.
So, what's this about?
We have a mutually beneficial proposition.
Does the pup speak for you, Jeannie?
Because I'm getting a weird sorcerer's apprentice vibe right now.
Give the kid a break, Val. We're here about Sana, the thin blood you're after. The girl's a threat. We need to find her. Figured we could do it faster if we work together.
Uh-huh. Keep going, honey. Because I got a feeling there's a catch coming.
The catch is...
Awkward silence. It's not often you see him at a loss for words. Seeing him struggling, you decide to jump in.
We want the girl to stay alive. See? Now that's a deal breaker right there, sugar. You want me to ever even consider it? You have to sweeten the pot.
Once again, she turns to D'Angelo.
And I bet tall, dark, and handsome over here might have some ideas. Just tell us what you want. Oh, you're no fun anymore. She wants a high profile target to show off to the prince what a good little scourge she is. That's all you care about nowadays, huh? Playing the game, climbing the ranks.
A smile creeps onto her lips. You can tell it's forced. D'Angelo definitely knows how to get under her skin.
That's my genie. Big old brain and a heart to match.
Once again, she turns to you.
I knew right away he tried to help this girl. He does love him a damsel in distress. But you, I'm still not sure what your angle is.
What do you care?
I don't, honey. Not really. It's called making conversation. So there, you know my terms. Contact me when you made your mind up. Don't talk too long, though. I'm a lucky girl. I might just find your little thin blood on my own. Still, I hope we can work together. We did make a good team back in the day, didn't we?
Slowly, seductively, she puts her arms around his shoulders. She glances over to you, clearly enjoying how awkward it makes you feel.
D, once this meeting is over, you have some explaining to do. You hear that, Genie? You're in some hot water now. Anyway.
Withdrawing from this strange half-embrace, she flicks D'Angelo's nose gently with her index finger. Almost instantly, she turns from flirtatious to dispassionate.
However this plays out, I have a feeling we'll meet again, sooner than later. Until then.
Without sparing you another glance, she disappears down an unlit park alley. D'Angelo watches her go. The look on his face, a mixture of longing and guilt, is borderline comical. Finally, he turns back towards you, as if breaking some spell he was under.
Well, it could have gone a lot worse. What do you mean, higher profile target?
It's not
what? It's whom? She wants me to give her Lawson.
Wait, what does Larson have to do with any of this?
He doesn't. Not directly. It's just that he might have some less than admirable chapters in his biography. Might have done some pretty egregious shit. Valerie knows a certain handsome someone might have evidence of said shit, which would allow her to bring him down. And bringing down a primogen, even one as lame as Larson, is a pretty big deal.
He squints, rubbing the bridge of his nose.
Fuck it. I'm heading back to the office. Need to put my feet up, get some blood flowing to the old noggin. Coming?
You nod. Why the hell not? And so, you make your way toward Fifth Avenue. You've got a long way ahead of you, and a lot of other stuff to figure out. Although it's not your first visit, you still find it hard to navigate the dark, rust-ridden corners of the grain terminal. Luckily this time you're with someone who could probably do this blindfolded, so you just follow his lead. As you're both climbing the rickety stairs leading to the mezzanine, you suddenly notice light coming from D'Angelo's office. A quick look assures you that no, he did not, in fact, leave it on. You bust through the door, like undead Tango and Hooch, or was that Turner and Cash, ready to unleash unholy fury on the intruders. You half expect an Anarch death squad, or an SI hunting party. Instead, you get Larson. He nearly falls out of the chair when you two bust in.
Well, look who it is. Is this already? Hardly.
Seeming both intrigued and irritated by the surprise visit, D'Angelo walks over to a cabinet and pulls out a fresh cigar.
Then may I ask what brings you, O venerable Primogen, to my humble abode?
Her. He points to a tiny shadow cowering in the corner of the room. To your astonishment, it turns out to be a very familiar face.
The blood. No. Not again. No. 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 Please.
Did she tell you anything? She just keeps babbling about blood and signs and all this nonsense.
She came to my house, probably figured out who I was, thought I could help. Honestly, I have no idea what I could do with her. I mean, I should turn her into the prince, but it's just another strike against my people. Then again, I can't just set her loose. Not after what she did. Fuck. D'Angelo, can you tell that I'm desperate for my first instinct? You can tell her that I'm desperate if my first instinct was to come to you.
No, Lawson. I would attribute that decision to what's left of your common sense.
He leans over to you.
Hey, kid. I think we should call it a night. Just give me some time to talk to the girl. Maybe I'll get through to her somehow.
The sign is always there.
Though I ain't holding my breath.
Honestly, you're glad to leave him to it. Spending the night in a small room with a tiny serial killer somehow doesn't seem too appealing. Still, you're hoping D'Angelo will be alright. He's got some tough choices ahead of him. You're walking down the street towards your haven. In some other towns, the sidewalks would be deserted this time of night. In New York City, there are plenty of passerby going about their business. It's easy to be paranoid when you're a vampire surrounded by a crowd of humans. The kindred have many enemies, and all those enemies have one trait in common. They're invisible, indistinguishable from normal humanity. Other vampires, hunters, all look like people. Is that old man just a tired restaurant worker or a kindred thrall tailing your movements? Are the officers idly waiting in a patrol car, ordinarily cops or Second Inquisition specialists looking to end undead threats? This kind of thinking leads to madness, but you can't shake the feeling that someone is watching you. It's not the first time you felt this. Whatever this is, it's probably something you can take care of. It's something you have to take care of. Best case, someone is tailing you. Worst case, you'll be attacked and killed. Unfortunately, being undead has its limitations. The sun is coming up, and soon you'll be burned to a crisp if you stay in the streets. You reach your haven and settle in for the day, disconcerted by the idea that someone might know where you sleep. As you wake from your slumber and emerge from your haven for the night, you notice a familiar face on the other side of the street. Standing on the corner, looking straight at you. It's Kaiser's lackey, whom you met recently. Jackie. He nods to you, encouraging you to approach. His hands are out of his pockets, and he seems pretty relaxed. He's keeping his eyes on the street, though, as if making sure you're alone. He smiles awkwardly when you approach.
Evening. Got something for you. For our old mutual friend.
He produces a crumpled piece of paper from his jacket pocket and hands it to you.
Read it, memorize it, and give it back here.
It's a letter. The paper might be just a page ripped out of a spiral notebook, but the writing on it is exquisitely detailed and deliberate. It reads,
"Time to square your debt with me. Go to the wine shop at 232 Mulberry Street and ask for the 1821 Special Reserve Donatello Negramaro. When they tell you they don't have it, say you are a Fidel Servitor del Famiglia G. Those exact fucking words, and make sure you get the G right. You'll get a bottle. Just take it and leave by saying grazie. Don't ask how much it is or anything else. Just walk out. When you have it, come back to Jackie Boy here and let him have it." You done? Memorize the shit and hand it over.
didn't pick your boss for a letter kind of guy. Isn't electronic communication his whole shtick? Yeah, well, some things are better done the old-fashioned way. Are you about done with the letter? You note the phrases and address mentioned in the letter, then hand it back to Jackie. He immediately reaches for a lighter and burns the letter, putting out the ashes with his boot. So yeah, when you do what the boss asks, come back here and I can tell you where to go next. I'll be in the alley over there. Find me when you have extra time, whatever it is. I don't know. The boss made it extra clear that I shouldn't care, so I don't. See ya. He shuffles away and leaves you to peruse the lead from the letter, time to pay a visit to Nolita. You arrive at the address mentioned in the note. Not counting local restaurant patrons, the street is mostly empty at this time of night. But curiously, the wine shop is still open. Inside, a small, middle-aged woman with curly hair stands behind the counter in front of a wall filled with wine bottles. There's a door at the back of the room with a small table and chair, occupied by a man in black faux leather jacket with slick, combed-back hair. He's reading a newspaper but pauses as a little bell rings when you open the door. He takes a slip from a small steaming cup, and then gets back to his broadsheet. Good evening. How can I help you? I would like a bottle of the 1821 Special Reserve Donatello Negramaro, please. Let me check our stock. She seems to be looking through a database on the laptop sitting on the counter. She puts on a polite smile. I'm afraid we don't have that one at the moment. Sorry. I am a federal servitor della Familia G. Ah, in that case, let me see what we have in that place. I have in the back. Wait here, please. The woman leaves the counter and goes to the doors in the back. The man by the table puts down the newspaper and takes another sip from the coffee, washing it down with a gulp of water from the nearby glass. He tries to hide it, but there's no doubt he's watching you. About a minute passes. You remind yourself of what Kaiser wrote in the letter to keep quiet, patiently waiting for the woman to return from the back of the store. The man finishes his drink and starts doodling on the newspaper, his eyes darting to you every so often. The doors to the back of the store open, and the proprietor emerges with a small, unlabeled squat bottle of crimson liquid. She gives you an apologetic smile. Scusi, sorry for taking so long. Turns out we did have it. She offers you the bottle and you reach out to grab it, but she retracts it. You do know what this is, don't you? You focus your blood and immediately see both the people in the shop focus intently in on you and what you're about to say. I know exactly what this is, and I'm the right person to give it to. The woman gives you the bottle without hesitation. Grazie. Deciding you've pushed your luck far enough, you nod and exit the store and take a brisk walk to your car. Nobody follows you as you leave Nolita and drive back to your apartment. It takes you some time to find a parking spot, but you finally get out of the car and start looking for Jackie. He's not far from where you parted ways just under 2 hours ago. Got the goods? I sure do. Cool. Stand by. Gotta make the call. Takes a few more steps into a narrow space between two buildings and takes out some high-tech phone you saw him carrying last time. Hey, boss. Yeah, they have it. Why do I point them to? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll tell them to go there right away. He puts the phone back in his pocket and turns back to you. Willits Point. Half an hour. You better step on it. See you around. Only a flippant salute, Jackie starts walking down the street. You make your way back to the car and drive.
You had to push the speed limit to make it on time, but you're here. Willets Point. It's quite a change of scenery. The place is a post-industrial dump, the nearby stadium notwithstanding. You stop your car once you realize that if you go any further down, the potholes will kill your chassis. You step out into one of those gashes into the asphalt, splashing in the ankle-deep water. Kaiser's limo is nowhere to be seen. In fact, the whole place is pretty much deserted, other than the apparent proprietor of a lonely bar, a middle-aged woman who's just locking the place up. You take a walk around the neighborhood. This mostly consists of run-down shops and garages with more than a few derelict cars left out here over the years to rust. You imagine it must be a good place for one of the sewer rats to hide out, and so you're on guard the whole time. But as far as you can tell, you're the only kindred here. It's only when you hear a car stopping nearby and see that it's apparently Kaiser's black limo that you relax a bit and approach it. Same as last time, the car doors open but nobody comes out. You know the drill. This time, Kaiser is visible when you look inside. You sit down and close the door behind you.
So, you pulled it off without a hitch then. Give it here.
You hand the bottle over to the Nosferatu. He uncorks it gently, takes a whiff, and puts the cork back in.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Good job, kid. Consider your debt paid. Oh yeah, and also, take this. It's what Langley wanted.
He passes you an envelope with what feels like a thick card inside.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Yeah, I'll send Jackie over if I ever need anything else from you. How about that? Time for you to get out. Now.
He waves you out of the car. The envelope in hand, you get out, back on the torn asphalt and decrepit surroundings. The limo slowly drives away. Finally, you can return to Sophie and bring her what she wanted. Gregory lets you in. You hear a shrill, unpleasant laugh, and you realize Sophie's having a guest over. Thomas Arturo. You met him in Elysium a few nights back. The shriek is unmistakable. Ah, Merrick. So glad to see you. Tell me, did you two have a chance to talk previously? Thomas speaks up before you can. Why, yes, of course. Such a good first impression you made, too. Miss Langley clearly did the right thing by taking you under her wing. I'm sure she thinks so, too, don't you, Sophie? Why, of course, Of course you do, of course. Well, I believe I must be going. I'll be sure that let Prince Banhard know your thoughts, Miss Langley. Word for word, or as close as I can remember them. I appreciate it, Thomas. You two enjoy your night now. Good night, Sophie, Merrick, Greggy boy. He gives you a sly smile. Sophie's driver opens the door for Arturo, and the guest steps out with a single wave of the hand towards his host and you. The door closes. He is quite the character, isn't he? Yes, quite. But he has his uses. Thomas's clout in court and access to many juicy details in everyone from the prince to the lowliest primogen. It's useful to have him on your side. Even in his eccentricity requires some patience. Speaking of patience, you've been putting mine to the test lately. Did you manage to contact Kaiser and acquire what I asked for? Yes, I have it. But the data you offered him was old news to him. I had to do another job for him before he would give me the card. She retrieves the envelope for you. I'm sure he did. I do hope it wasn't too much of an inconvenience. He made me go on an entirely separate escapade to retrieve a bottle of wine from a store in Nolita. Then he used a code phrase and whatnot. Wine shop? Code phrases? That degenerate pest. She is visibly agitated but calms down and smiles at you. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure that whatever Kaiser had you do, it'll blow over. She opens the envelope and looks at the card. You notice the same lettering you saw in Kaiser's note from before. You can't see the details. Her eyes widen. Yes. Excellent. I need to call in some favors. I will likely be busy for the next few nights. You have my permission to show some initiative, my dear charge. I will contact you soon. With that, Sophie ushers you outside, and you are left to do with the rest of the night. It's ours, as you like. It's been some time since you last visited Red Hook. You should probably get back to D'Angelo and see if he's managed to figure out how to handle Sana. As you make your way up the stairs, you notice that D'Angelo's office is surprisingly quiet. You were half expecting something akin to a scene from The Exorcist, with Sana belching out curses and your companion sprinkling her with, well, whatever it is vampires use for holy water. What you witness instead as you open the door is a picture of serenity. The girl, although still curled up in the corner, is sitting calmly with her eyes fixed on the pages of some pulpy detective novel. Doesn't even register your presence. Sitting behind his desk, D'Angelo seems to be looking over some files, puffing on his usual brand of cigar, seeing no trace of Larson. You assume he must have gone back to his family. Noticing your presence, the vampire detective leans back in his chair and gives you a tired look.
Hey there, kid. Glad you could make it.
You're kidding? I would have missed this for the world. Clearly noting your sarcasm, he hits back with a smile that could express anything but amusement.
Right. Make yourself comfortable. We got some heavy shit to figure out, you and I. I've been going over the case files, mulling over our options. Surprise, surprise, they all suck donkey dick. No matter how we go about this, someone gets fucked over. Her, Larson, us.
Wait, you say we have case files? We have those?
Hey, say what you will about me, but I take my work seriously. And as my faithful assistant, you should too. So here's what we can do. 1, we grab Sana and take her to Elysium and make case for her to Prince Panhard. 2, we get Valerie to back off by feeding her the dirt I got on Lawson. 3, we try to get Lawson out of the city. We try to get Sana out of the city. Come on, kid. I can hear them thoughts bouncing around your head from over here. On with it.
Assuming we can get her out of the city, what makes you think she won't get killed again?
She won't kill again. Hey, I ain't just gonna let her loose in another state and forget about it. I got some people up north, people I can trust. They might be able to help her. At the very least, keep her safe and make sure she doesn't do anything stupid.
You want to bring Sana to Elysium. Isn't that pretty much a death sentence?
Pretty much. Not quite. If we can get an audience with Panhard, we might be able to convince her to spare Sana's life. Princess isn't as much of a hot ass as some would like her to be. She'd probably rather avoid further alienating the Duskborn community. That said, we run into Gadir. We're as good as fucked. Okay, time's a wasting. What do you think we should do?
Wait, you're here letting me make the call?
Look, kid, I've been at it all day, mulling it over, and all I got from my trouble was a splitting headache. I just don't know anymore. All I'm asking is for your honest opinion. Just pick one and make a case. Convince me it's the right thing to do. Or at least wrong. Or the least wrong, at least. So one more time. Bring the girl to Elysium. Trade her life for Lawson's. Or sneak her out of town. Which would you go with?
Let's try to get her out. Maybe we can put her on a train without anyone noticing. Maybe we'll get her some help once she's out of harm's way. There's a lot of maybes. What if we get caught? What if a fit comes over her in a way? What if she kills again? You want to live with that? I guess I'd better be. So be it. Fuck. Do me a favor, kid. Watch her for a few minutes, okay? I gotta make some arrangements, make a few calls. He catches himself. Looks at you with an expression of the phoniest of phony guilt. But not like the phone or anything. It's, that would make me a naughty boy, which I'm clearly not. He walks out of the office. Through the faceted windows, you can see him instantly go for his clamshell phone. Screw it. Does it really make a difference at this point? You turn to the girl, who still has her nose in the book. Hell of a week, huh? He looks up from the book and her eyes glaze over. A shiver runs down your spine. You decide it's best to leave her to her reading and spend the next few minutes in complete silence. Finally, D'Angelo staggers back into the room. All right. I called in a favor with my friends from up north. Just I need someone to get Sana out here once she's out of the city. All we need to do is get her on a train. He walks over to Sana and crouches beside her. Speaking softly, he takes the book out of her hands and gently strokes her head. Hey, darling. I need you to listen very carefully. We're gonna go on a little trip, okay? You just stay quiet and stay close to me. Can you do that? She squints, trying her best to concentrate, and nods emphatically. Well, all right then. He turns to you and nods as well. Looks like it's time to go. The nearby metro station serves as a good starting point for Sana's getaway. Crowded enough to blend in, but not enough to lose sight of the girl. You take the escalator and make your way up the platform. Minutes pass in tense silence as you wait for the train to arrive. Finally, the steel behemoth worms its way onto the station. D'Angelo turns to Sana, grabbing her by the shoulders to get her attention. All right, Sana. Listen to me very carefully. This train will get you out of the city. A friend of mine will meet you at the last stop. You'll know it's him, because he'll say my name. Remember my name? She squints, trying her best to concentrate. D'Angelo. Close enough. Something akin to a smile creeps onto her face. This is as close to happy as you've seen her. Gift, not hurt. D'Angelo returns her smile. You're welcome. And with that, she walks onto the train. She stops for a moment, looks back and gives you one last look of hope. As she disappears among the other passengers, D'Angelo lets out a grunt of relief. Suddenly, you feel a hand on your shoulder. Gentle at first. It quickly turns into a vice grip. You look at D'Angelo and notice a hand on his shoulder as well. Don't move a muscle. Opting to play it cool for now, you stay perfectly still. As your muscles relax, so does the grip on your shoulder. There we go. Nice and easy. Once again, you look over at D'Angelo. He looks ahead with a pained expression on his face. I'm curious, D'Angelo. How exactly did you think this was going to play out? You put the girl on the train. She gets picked up by your Chicago friends. Magically gets better. I'm none the wiser, and we all live happily ever after. He tightens his grip on your shoulder and gives you a little shake. At least this one has the excuse of being young and stupid. But you should fucking know better. You had brought her to me. This would have been over quickly, painlessly. As it stands now,
I can't guarantee it.
As the wheels of the train start rolling, you notice a familiar silhouette in one of the train windows. Valerie, the Scourge, smiles at you. She looks sickeningly eager, like a fox who's found its way to the henhouse. She blows you a kiss as the train rolls its way out of the station.
Now then, what am I supposed to do with you?
This is my idea. I accept the consequences.
You hear that, D'Angelo? This kid wants to take the fall. You got anything to add?
It's bullshit and you know it.
Oh, I do. But it feels good to make you say it. So, here's what's gonna happen. You fucked up. Big time. I'm counting this as a one-time make-or-break strike on both of your records. From now on, I will be keeping an eye on you. If I catch either of you so much as even farting in the way that displeases me, I promise you will not wake up the next night. In the meantime, I expect you to make up for this. You're on thin fucking ice, and I want to see some nice twirling and tiptoeing around before I let you back on firm ground. Limber up, kiddos.
You feel the grip on your shoulder loosen. With Kadir's hands no longer in your peripheral vision, you turn back. As one would expect, there is no sign of the sheriff anywhere. Once more, you turn to D'Angelo. He remains as he was, looking ahead, staring off into space.
I killed her.
You tried to save her. If anyone's the killer here, it's Kadir and Valerie.
Kadir does what he's ordained to do. And Valerie, she's just a tool. Can't be mad at a scorpion for using his stinger. No, this one's on me. I really thought I could save her.
Not really knowing what to say, you lift your hand to pat him on the back. You stop yourself mid-motion. Somehow, it doesn't seem like the thing to do. You leave the station and head back to Red Hook. On your way, you keep thinking about Son and whether now is the exact moment where Valerie brings her final death. It's not a pleasant journey. Slowly, clumsily, you make your way back to the grain terminal. No words are spoken. No bad jokes made. No monologues muttered. No smiles exchanged. There's only silence and vacant stares. As you head up the stairs to D'Angelo's office, you can feel the tension rising. You can tell the moldy sleuth has reached a breaking point. He walks into his office and leans against his cluttered desk. He figured now is a good time as any to break the silence.
Why don't you grab some shut-eye? It's been a long night.
The moment you finish your sentence, D'Angelo leans over and sweeps all of his stuff off the desk. Notepads, bits of paper, and what looks like a cheap imitation of an antique lamp. It all comes crashing to the floor. It doesn't stop there, as he grabs a heavy file cabinet and knocks it over. Slowly but surely, the once quiet office turns into a heap of crumpled paper and broken furniture. The tantrum lasts for mere seconds, but as you stand there watching, it feels like forever. Finally, D'Angelo stops and looks up at the ceiling. It's hard to tell if he's had enough or simply run out of stuff to throw around. As he stands there slowly regaining composure, one of the objects scattered on the floor catches your eye. It's a small paperback novel, the same you saw Sana reading earlier tonight. It must have landed there while D'Angelo was giving the room a royal thrashing. You pick it up. In huge letters, the title of the cover spells The Longest Night and Other Stories. The smaller caption underneath reads, another collection of stories from the Gianni D'Angelo saga. The actual fuck. You flip it over and are immediately drawn to the picture of the back cover. If not for the lack of flaky skin and distorted features, you say the guy looks very familiar. The name next to the picture, Reginald Finch. You stand there, not even knowing where to start. Even in his current state, D'Angelo, whatever his name is, remains one step ahead of you.
Yeah, that's me in the picture. Reggie fucking Finch. Haven't seen him in a while. Wasn't planning to.
You named yourself after one of your characters?
Afraid it's more than that. Sort of, became him. See, Reggie Finch was a pushover, small-time journalist and wannabe writer who would never survive out there among the Coteries in New York. Gianni D'Angelo, on the other hand, honestly, it just sort of happened. Guess it was the only way I could make sense of it all. I mean, once you wake up looking like this, realizing your life and all that you were is gone forever, can't really blame me for trying to make it interesting.
I guess, to some extent, we all put on an act in front of others.
Make up characters, idealized versions of ourselves, as if something to live up to. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still weird, but it's not that weird. D'Angelo.
For a moment, he seems to be mulling over what you just told him. Finally, he picks up the ashtray on the floor. Rummaging through the ashes, he finds a mangled, half-finished cigar. He sticks it in his mouth and lights up, the lighter's flame reflecting in his shades. He smiles at you, ever so slightly.
Thanks, kid. Tell you what, how about you take the rest of the night off? Need some time to get my shit in order. Starting with this office, some dumb assholes made one hell of a mess of it.
You smile and nod. He nods back.
I'll be seeing you.
So you leave him to his thoughts. No way to be sure, but you have a feeling. It's gonna be alright. Alright, we'll leave off there for that. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been such a good time. It's nice to revisit this. And I feel like we're already making some more headway compared to like our first run. So very excited to see where this is gonna go. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Hopefully, my plan is to finish this run up tomorrow. And then we'll be doing some fighting games on Saturday. We'll be starting a little later that time, actually. We're starting at 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And yeah. If you haven't had the chance or trying to get caught up on things, you can go check it out on the YouTube. Say hello in the Discord. We got things going on in all places. And expect some more spooky content as we continue through this spooky month of October. Happy spookiness to y'all. And as someone said earlier, we reached affiliate, so that's exciting. Thank you everyone for getting us there. I'll figure out something to do about that at some point. So yeah, but I guess for the time being, gotta watch yourself on these spooky streets. Stay safe out there.